Dark bleatings, everyone. This is going to be a bit of an odd one because I was absolutely positive that I'd already made this video, but I can't find it. But if you have seen me do this video before, can you let me know where it is? Because I went back through all of my videos so convinced that I'd made it, and now I'm wondering, I think that maybe I just wrote this as a list article on happygoathorror.com instead of making it here, or whatever. But in any case, today I'm going to be showing you my top 10 favourite classic horror books. I'd say novels. Some of these are really short, though I wouldn't classify them as novels, so I didn't want to like mislead in the title, but most of them are novels. So I do think I got quite a variety of types of horror in here in the classics, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about why I like each one. So in number 10, and this order is ranked, so we've got The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. So this, if I'm not mistaken, and if I am mistaken, please tell me in the comments, because I'd love to know so I can actually pick up the first thing if it's not this. But I think that this is the first Gothic horror novel ever published. I don't remember, 1764 this was published. So this is a sort of ghosty story with a really weird incident with the statue, and I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit initially with the language, because 1700s English is not the same as today's English, or English from 100 years ago, or even 200 years ago. So it took me, it's a fairly small novel, short novel, but it took me quite a while because I wanted to make sure that I was absolutely, like, actually absorbing the story. But I think that what I came to really enjoy about it was the language, like the process of you know, seeing things through the eyes of an author at this period in time, like as a creative. So I really enjoyed it. The story itself is fine. I wouldn't say it's an amazing story, but it is entertaining, and yeah, I actually really came to love the language of it. In number 9, we have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. So I would say this is quite horror light, but the themes are quite gothic horror. This is about two sisters that live alone in this castle house, and there was a death in the family that one of the sisters has sort of socially been blamed for, and it's sort of about their dynamic and family secrets, and you know what happens if like these sisters only have each other and then one of them gets a suitor, and that throws the dynamic off. And Shirley Jackson was just a wonderful writer, and this if you're someone who enjoys like character stories with like familial themes and stuff, story about isolation and like family bonds, like this would be a good read for you. Number 8, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I thought that I'd read this and then realised I hadn't after watching The Haunting of Bly Manor, the Mike Flanagan show, and I realised it was based on this, and I thought, oh, I haven't read it. This is a ghosty story. It is just a good old-fashioned classic ghosty gothic horror novel. Henry James is a lovely writer, has such a way with words, and it's genuinely very creepy. I can't say I was super scared, but very creeped out. And if you're looking for a nice, I don't know, a nice spooky read on a night with bad weather, this is a good choice. Okay, a book I had no appreciation for, well, no real appreciation for, until I read A Vindication of Monsters, which was a non-fiction book that I read last year about the life and work of Mary Shelley and Mary Wollstonecraft, her mother, and it's Frankenstein. So I always respected that this is the first science fiction book published. Why Mary Shelley doesn't get the credit for that, and people are always banging on about oh, I've forgotten his name that did War of the Worlds, but that dude, he's always cited as one of the OG sci-fi people. But it didn't start with the sci-fi bros. It started with Mary Shelley when she was like 19 years old, and she spent a Dracula bender on a creative mission and came up with Frankenstein. And so I reread it after reading those essays with a different appreciation for how big of a deal this actually is. And I came to, again, it's not my favorite classic horror, but it now is in my top 10 classic horrors because of the context of it as well. Sometimes I didn't like her language as much. I know that's kind of sacrilege to say, but the story is really poignant and it's a very good observation about people. Number 6 is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. So this is, everyone knows this as the lesbian vampire story. It's very short, and you know, it is a lesbian vampire story, but it isn't just that, and that's something that bugs me quite often when that's like the first and only thing that's cited about it often. But it's actually, it's really meaningful. It's quite emotional. I found it quite powerful to read. The fact that this is a gay story isn't, I mean, they just happen to be women. It's not really, I don't know, I just felt like this was written in a time, we weren't always so weird about gayness, is what I'm trying to say, and this just reads as quite authentic and organic. Like, this relationship feels very organic to me. But you know, there's danger because vampire. Number 5, we've got Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde by Robert Louis, or is it Louis Stevenson? And I got this lovely edition. I think I must have got this from Waterstones. And this is obviously, I'm sure we all know, this is the story about a scientist who creates a drug that he takes, drinks, whatever, and it does something to his personality. And again, this is kind of in line with what we like about werewolf stories. This is quite the duality of human nature kind of story. You know, our kind of shadow selves coming into play. It's really good fun, and again, it's a cool little sci-fi horror. Number 4, we have The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. Again, I love this little edition. This genuinely frightened me. I listened to the audiobook first and then I read it, and I'm so sorry I don't remember who narrated the audiobook that I listened to, but they did a really good job. And this is my favourite of the sort of like classic gothic horror ghost stories. I don't remember when this was published, but Susan's still around, isn't she? So not like the oldest of the classic works that I'm citing here, but this really belongs as a staple in your sort of ghost horror collection. Number 3, I actually found this top 3 quite hard when I made this list originally as well, because I really love these books. But we have Dracula by Bram Stoker. It's not in perfect condition anymore because I have read this copy a few times, but I've got this edition, this special edition with the lovely metallic red sprayed edges, and it's just a beautiful book, and I love to pick it up and love to look at it, and I love the story. I will say, I don't know if any film has ever actually really captured the book. This is gonna annoy some people, but I think that the iteration of it that actually captured the book the best in terms of like what's actually happening is Dracula Dead and Loving It. I love Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. I think it's a masterpiece, but it is quite a deviation from the character of Dracula as we know him in the book. Something I always say is that Dracula himself isn't that interesting of a character compared to the others, because he is a one-dimensional villain. All these other iterations we've seen of him where he's been romanticized is just not the Dracula of the book. The Christopher Lee version is a bit closer, but still kind of doesn't really get the point of the other characters. So I don't think that there's been a perfect adaptation of this yet. But yeah, for a story, you know, a vampire, it's not the first vampire story, but it is my favorite one. You know, he's a scary, horrible monster that lives in this castle. It sort of invades another part of the world. There's probably some fairly horrible racist subtext to it now that I'm saying that. Or maybe he's just a vampire that's gone to a different land in search of new food. But yeah, it's a staple of the horror genre for a really good reason. And I've been obsessed with Lucy Westenra since I was about 12 because of this book. She is my favorite horror character of all time, I think, and I don't know why exactly, but I just really identified with her. Number 2. Oh, if anyone that's watching this was in this class with me in university, you're going to be so surprised. But the Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So this is a short, and I think this is a short little book. But it's one of the most important, if you're going to talk about literature in terms of importance and like cultural reflection and weight, this is the one. I was in a class in uni where I was doing costume design for a play that was being devised based on the Yellow Wallpaper, and it was a time. It was a time because of the director, who is hailed as a genius quite often, and I'm sure that she is, but she was also horrible to work with. I felt like at some point she indoctrinated the whole cast into thinking that they were the Yellow Wallpaper itself. You know, she had a thing about she didn't want anyone that was not skinny in her cast, and she was making them run around and do yoga, and inevitably the I say weightier girls, the average size girls in her cast dropped out. So I don't like her as a person, but the piece that she produced at the end was really good. But anyway, the Yellow Wallpaper is about a woman who is diagnosed with hysteria, and this is based on a true story, the true story and real life experiences of the author and many other women of the time, where the treatment for that was to be locked in a room with absolutely no stimulation, no art, nothing. They're not allowed out. They're fed. They don't have any human company. They're not allowed to read, write, nothing. And this particular room has this yellow wallpaper in it. And I can't remember what the poison is, but they used to be like cyanide or something. Is it cyanide? I think that's a bit strong. There was a really harmful chemical in yellow dye that was in this wallpaper, and it's, you know, the woman goes into the room completely sane with a normal complaint. And then she does become hysterical as time goes on because of the treatment and the wallpaper. It's very, very chilling, and it's a really good read. And if you're somebody that's interested in, you know, why feminists tend to be so angry, this is part of it. And my number 1 favorite, I love it so much, and I love all of the other books I've mentioned, but this one is just on a completely different plane to me, is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. First of all, this was my first Oscar Wilde, and I now see why everybody is such a also almost sycophantic fan of his language skills. His language and the way that he uses his words, his phrasing, everything, it's so imbued with personality as well. And it was just beautiful to read. I was marveling. I'm not somebody, I'm a Stephen King reader, and I'm not saying that I think Stephen King has great artistic merit, but I prefer language normally that's more just sort of like down to earth and not flowery at all. Stuff that other people don't consider literature, basically. I like popular horror fiction, but I was just marveling over the sentence structure, the word choices, the metaphors, and what was really, really special on top of that this guy is just a wordsmith is that he's got a really kind of sarcastic, sassy sense of humor that really pours itself through the prose. So we've got this really beautiful sort of like highly intellectual language, but it's laced with like this weird, this sassiness that's it's almost ahead of its time, the level of sassiness, if that makes any sense. You'd have to read it to like see what I mean. And then on top of it, this is just the story, this is the classic narcissist story, basically, about a guy who, is so in love with his own image that he has this painting made of himself. He's so taken with his own beauty that his vanity begins to destroy him. So I think this must, I'd be very surprised if Oscar Wilde didn't know the original myth. But yes, it's real creepy. It's funny, but not in a, this is a comedy kind of way. It's just coming through the author. yeah, it's just a wonderful read, and if you haven't picked this up before, there is so much to love about it. It's not just the story or just the writing, it's the whole package. And yes, I highly recommend it. If you don't pick up anything else from this list that I've recommended, please do yourselves the favor of discovering Oscar Wilde and The Picture of Dorian Gray. Okay, it was really fun to talk about classics. I haven't read one in a little while, and I now feel like I would like to read some more classics. I'm going to have to look on my TBR and see what I have not yet picked up. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if I'm missing any of your favourites on the list, please let me know, because it's only in the last few years that I've made a real effort to start reading backwards in time through horror fiction. So if there are any like real standouts of the horror genre for you in classic horror literature, I would love to know what they are, so I can pop them to the top of my list and read them a little bit faster. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bleed!